And what we have is we have some rows, we have some columns, and the roles are the different roles of the person. The person can be doing different jobs, and the columns are each job can be on-site or can be remote. And
Ah,
the jobs are very similar whether they're on-site or remote. But it's important to acknowledge that remote and on-site are kind of different because remote, you can be at the vehicle instantly if your telecommunications are working that day. But
if, yeah.
but you have limited ability to understand what's going on because you're looking through cameras, you're listening through microphones, you're not actually there. You can't jump out of the car to look underneath the car, for example. There's a bunch of limits. So both types of roles are okay. So none of these roles is a problem on its own. It's a question of how these roles are put together to create a package of safety for the experience. And that's what matters. So none of this is criticism of the roles. It's all, well, this is just the way it is. And the question is, how do you put these together? So the first row is operate equipment. There's operators. And you could take just a conventional driver. Get in the car, you have a steering wheel, you have brakes, you have accelerator pedal, you drive the car. You can do
Mhm.
this locally in a car. Most people watching have done that at some point in their life or will
Yeah.
do that at some point in their life.
Yeah.
But you can do it remotely. You can have a steering wheel and a brake pedal and accelerator in a computer center, and you could be what people call teleoperating the vehicle. You can remotely drive, and companies do that right now. Right? So that's the first. That's the obvious one.
Right.
And I think there's nobody who would disagree that's driving. Okay. But now there's also you can intervene when needed, which in the past I've called supervision. So I'm going to call it supervision here. And that is you're watching the car drive, and it's really it is doing the vast majority of the driving, and your job is to jump in if something is about to go wrong.
Ah,
And those are all over the place. The on-site ones are any it's so-called level two vehicle where the driving's automated, but you're supposed to be in the seat ready to take over. So also all sorts of brand names for that, but many new cars have this. It's
yeah.
automated steering plus automated speed control plus maybe
Right.
some other stuff.
Right.
And so that's supervising the vehicle, but you can remote supervise if you have the same controls as you were remote driving, but you turn on the super duper cruise plus plus control, right?
Yeah.
Guess what? Your remote supervisor. And
Yeah.
you can switch. Now you can switch modes. You can switch to remote driving just by grabbing the steering wheel and moving it, and now you're back to remote driving. But you can do
Wow.
that in person, you can do that remotely. And there are some issues potentially if the communication lag is too long, but
Hmm.
companies are already doing that. They already have remote cars that mostly drive themselves and people jump in when needed. So that's also a thing. So all four of the things I've talked about have been around for a while
Yeah.
at this point. The next one is what people typically think of as assistant, but I'm going to call it decide and approve because
Okay.
what's going on here is kind of nuanced. And these are examples from what we've seen car companies do or for mishaps that have occurred that involve these or examples in the guidelines. So I'm not making it, these are all real things if you know where to look. Uh, if you're remote, so mostly this is remote, you are not watching the car all the time. So supervision is you're watching the car and your job is to intervene. For
Ah,
decide and approve, the car's in charge. It's driving itself and there's nobody watching over its shoulder because if they were,
yeah.
that'd be supervision. But when the car finds out there's a problem, it's the automated driving system computer in the car, but I'm just going to say the car, keep it
Yeah.
simple. When the
Yeah.
car gets in trouble, it phones home and says, hey, I could use some help, right? So far, this is the narrative for assistant. But what help are you getting? Well, it's having trouble deciding what to do next. So the help you're providing is affecting its movement. And it's typically something like, is this traffic light red or green? I think it might be green, but I'm not sure. So what do you think? Okay.
Mm.
Or, hey, there's this thing in the road. Is that a garbage bag or is that a person? Can I run over it safely or not? Okay. And that's a real example from one of the documents. And yes, absolutely. If it's not sure if that's a person who's fallen in the road or a garbage bag, I want it phoning home. There's absolutely nothing wrong. I want that to happen. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's providing decisions, or the car will say, I think I should do this, but I'm not sure. Is it okay if I do the thing? So it's approving a proposed action. But in each case, what's happening is the car's computer is saying, I really want human judgment to weigh in here.
Right.
And that's perfectly fine. And where the technology is now, I can't imagine putting these vehicles on the road and not having that capability. There's nothing wrong with that capability.
Okay.
Where we go off the rails here is saying that person has nothing to do with safety or implying it or trying to say that, of course, they have to do something to do with safety.
Yeah.
And it's not, well, they're not driving. Well, they're not performing the full motion control task. But by the way, there's more to driving than motion control. It's like, should they tell the passenger to get out because there might be a battery fire?
Yeah.
You may want to weigh in on a person on that, but that's not that part of driving. It's still a driving task.
Yeah.
But you have this decision and approval of I want to do this driving task, or I need a very narrow decision. It's a checkbox, multiple choice question, things like this.
Yeah.
And it says I want a human to weigh in. Well, if the humans weighing in general, they're going to be affecting the behavior of the car. Maybe not always, but
Yeah.
the point is they will affect the behavior, else there's no reason to ask them.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they will, they'll, and it may be one of many factors, but ultimately, if the person never affects the behavior, there was no point calling the person. So this person is going to, at least some of the time, affect the behavior of the vehicle by applying human judgment the computer doesn't have. And that means their judgment has to do with safety. If the car's not sure if the bag in the middle of the road is a person or a bag, the remote assistant says it's a bag, and it's really a pedestrian who's fallen in the driveway, and heaven forbid the car runs over that person. You cannot say the remote assistant had nothing to do with safety. It's just not true.
Yeah.
So remote assistant is the thing that's really controversial right now. I call it decide and approve because they're not just, what do you mean by giving help? That doesn't mean anything. They're making a decision or
Yeah.
they're approving a decision. And in both cases, the idea is they're using their unique human expertise to do
Right.
something the computer is not yet able to do.
Yeah.
That's what we're. There's another one, incident response. There will be crashes with this technology. We've already seen some. There will be more. That doesn't make it unsafe. It's a matter of how often it happens, how bad it is. But there will be crashes, and ignoring that doesn't make sense. But there
Right.
will be other incidents. There will be getting stuck during power blackouts. There will be all sorts of things that the software just can't handle or can't handle safely, or it's in the plans, but we're not there yet. There's all sorts of things can happen.
Yeah.
And so there's incident response.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a person in the front passenger seat there to dig out from the problem in the early days. And maybe there's a remote person, and maybe that remote person has a steering wheel, but maybe not. But a lot of this is something has gone wrong, and you have to decide what you're going to do about it. And
Yeah.
that's much different because it's an open-ended decision making. I
Um,
split that from decide and improve. Decide and improve is the car is still trying to drive, but it needs a little bit of help on a specific, well, is that light red or green? Not what do I
right.
do? As soon as you say, what do I do? Well, the car has completely lost its script. It has no idea what's going on if it asks, what do I do next? And
Yeah.
so I call that incident response because if the car can't drive, that's an incident. It's
I
not
see.
just unsure. It's like, I don't know what to do. All right. That's an incident.
Okay.
And incident doesn't mean crash. It just means something has gone wrong enough that a human needs to come in and apply open-ended problem-solving skills. And maybe it sketches a path on the road and says, trust me, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's like, there's a tree in front of you, and I want you to take this path that crosses the double yellow line, but trust me, it'll be fine. All right. Or we've had some sort of crash, and I want to know if it's safe to move the vehicle out of the way. And I'm going to
Okay.
review the video before the crash to make sure we didn't hit a person who's stuck under the vehicle, or who knows what could have happened,
Uh,
right?
uh,
And so it's very open-ended problems. And of course, they have a very big safety responsibility to play here, even if they're not in the car. And it might be someone who has to jump into a car and be driven across town to go to the scene of a crash. That's the on-site incident response. But it's all something has gone wrong, and you have to clean up the mess or extricate the vehicle.
right.
And so I lump those all together. There are for sure subcategories in here, but for our purposes, I'm lumping them together. It's open-ended problem solving, and it's clear the person has a safety responsibility because
Yeah.
they're cleaning up some sort of mess. Okay.
Yeah.
The next one is on call for operations. This is an easy one, but if you're going to run a sophisticated system with tens or hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of vehicles, you're going to need a call center, a pool of people who can respond. And the companies already do this. There's
Right.
people waiting to jump into the tow truck and go across town to rescue the car that got too stuck or got damaged. There's
Yeah.
people in a call center waiting to dip in and say, yeah, that traffic light is green or whatever. Uh,
Yeah.
and and so you need to perform triage. You have to make sure the people who are connected with the response needed have the right skills. Because sometimes it might be a decide and improve, sometimes it might be an incident response. It might be maintenance, which is the next category. So this is
Mm,
just the dispatching function, right?
right, dispatching. Yeah, okay.
But those people have to respond in time. If you need a response within 10 seconds, you have to make sure there's someone available in 10 seconds. And if it's okay to wait 30 minutes, it's okay to wait 30 minutes. But they're probably, if you want a 10-second response, if they're asleep, that's not happening, right?
That's, yeah, no,
So,
no.
so there is some safety requirement there, which is to maintain alertness and situational awareness. It's a lot easier than the others, but there's something there. And the
Yeah,
last one is maintain equipment. There's a requirement when you're back at the operations center to calibrate the sensors and clean off all the lenses and
uh,
all this other stuff
yeah,
that sometimes the car can do some of it, but it may need some help. And but there's also remote maintenance where you may say, "Hey, I have a warning light. I'm mid-mission. I'm driving down the street. I just got a warning." And
uh,
you want a person to weigh in on, can I continue the mission with this warning? And it may require some open-ended judgment. It's like, well, the windshield wiper fluid is not working, right? Or the windshield wipers aren't working, but it's a beautiful sunny day. There's no dust, there's no nothing. It's probably fine to drive another mile back to the car barn
yeah,
versus we're in the middle of an ice storm and snowstorm with mud all over
yeah,
the place. Hi, you're stopping right here. Uh,
yeah,
at some point, there's enough nuance here. You probably want a person to weigh in on how severe the malfunction is.
right,
Most of them can be automated, but some will be so context dependent. You really want a person to probably the car is always cautious, but you
yeah,
want a person that may decide it's okay in this situation to override the warning to continue a little bit to deliver the passenger, get the car back so you don't have to tow it, things like this. And there's nothing wrong with that. But
yeah.
again, there's a safety responsibility that the human has to exercise good judgment and not push the car through a situation where it's unsafe for it to operate.